Almost here. Okay, already. Check it all out. Okay, ready to go. I was busy talking to myself. Where am I? In my basement. Welcome to the superpilotish channel. My name is Graham Wilson, and today, like I said, in my basement, I'm going to be talking to you about the top five, the top five YouTubey kind of ways of damaging your engine. And I'm gonna include the propeller in there too, because they're kind of all the same thing. They're all connected in most little airplanes, and that's what today will be. And I got my special old ancient shirt on today because I'm kind of feeling like bush pilot or something maybe. But the funny thing is, the other day I was watching a rerun, old rerun of Northern Exposure. It was, remember that it was a TV show that was on. Oh, when was that? In the 90s, something like that. And then it's like there's this old lady sitting at the bar on Northern Exposure, and I looked at her shirt and I said, "Hey, I got a shirt like that." So I was like, "I'm gonna put it on." Then it made me think this shirt's like 25 years old or 20. It's ancient, man. 30 years old, maybe. But this was the cool style back in the 90s, and I guess it's been sitting on a hanger for that long. Still looks okay, I guess. And it's got those kind of Jerry Seinfeld kind of pleated, poofy. The sleeves were all kind of poofy in the 90s there. So, anyways, yeah. So let's get to it. The top five ways to damage a prop or engine. So I'm gonna get my red for safety marker out here. We'll take the cap off. But I was going to have this all done before, but then I was kind of I was kind of rehearsing to myself here, and then I noticed I had to get on air. Top five ways to damage. Oop, that's a bad looking M. Damage. We'll say engine. Engine / prop. Okay, and these aren't really good. They're not going to be really in any particular order. Okay, and then the title of this show, it's a little bit, I don't know, clickbaity. But it's really important that, like, if you're flying in an airplane, that your engine runs. So I kind of find that to be an important thing. And there's things that you can do to keep it running well. And I guess I should say, for the non-pilots out there, if you're flying in an airplane, like, over the years, the engineers they've tweaked and tweaked and tweaked and fixed that thing and fixed that thing, so that the reliability of airplane engines is like absolutely phenomenal, especially the jet engines. Boy, they've stuck, I don't know how many millions and millions and millions of dollars into researching those things to be so reliable. But boy, are they ever reliable. Yeah, they'll have a failure. So, I think for them to be certified, I know that there's, for the Pratt & Whitney PT6 turbine engine, it has been certified so that it would only have a failure after 100,000 hours of use. But you're going to be checking it out before 100,000 hours. So you never hear of a Pratt & Whitney PT6 failing. Like, it almost never happens. And then the other, Rolls-Royce engines and all the other ones, Boeing, they're all great. So, oh, hey, Shecky, thanks for coming by today. Number one, but this is something that most of the stuff is kind of like pilot created. So I guess I should probably remind some of the pilots out there that, it can happen to you. Okay, so number one, we will say, I would say, in my experience as a pilot hanging around the airport, propeller strikes. Okay, don't smash your propeller off the runway. Should be, oh yeah, okay, I just won't do it. But people do it all the time. And usually after that, they kind of realize, oops, well, I'm on the ground. This is going to be messed up. And it's not necessarily that bad if you kind of just kind of hit the prop a little bit. It might like the propeller will have to be either be repaired or they can be repaired. They can either be repaired, replaced, or but if you're flying in an airplane that's not an experimental or amateur built, you have to get that checked out by a mechanic. And I have seen I have seen people do propeller strikes. A lot of times, you'll find that it's these guys with retractable gear airplane. They kind of forget to put the wheels down, and then it's like they come into land, and then they hear the propeller going tick 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 off of the runway. I'm pretty sure that's what it sounds like. I've never heard it myself, but you can hear the propeller tips hitting the runway because it's not like, it's coming down pretty gently, and then you'll hear it ding ding ding. And then what happens too? Maybe I'll explain with one of my airplanes here. We'll go for the original KD-12X. And yeah, so what happens if they forget to put the wheels down? If you're coming into land, you don't actually, this one doesn't have any wheels, so he forgot too. And what happens is if the propeller is spinning around, that hits the ground first, and it actually kind of bumps the plane up because it'll kind of bounce off the propeller tips. So it's not gonna plow in and crash because when this gets bumped up, now you have more lift, and so you might come back up again. And the propeller, by that time, the pilots heard this, and ideally, what you should do if you don't remember your landing gear, you should just just land like normal, destroy your engines. Don't try to take off and fly around again, because now you're flying with a damaged propeller and you don't know what's going to happen. So it'd be better just if you hear those propeller tips, it's basically you're calling your insurance company and something's going to get expensive in a hurry. But I mean, a lot of people do, and it's kind of a natural thing that we train for, is to, if anything weird goes on, give her the full power and away you go. Except for in that case. So that's kind of a weird one. And everyone is always surprised when it happens, when they forget to put their gear down. I've known a few guys to do it, and it can easily happen. It's usually more if it's a single pilot environment where it's a small airplane. That's usually where it happens. You never hear about big jets forgetting to do that, because they have all these warning systems in there. And you also got another pilot saying, "Hey, dude, you forgot to put the wheels down." Ooh, crap. So yeah, but if you're doing that, that will damage your engine. And the reason that you have to inspect the engine after that is because the propeller is all connected to the engine, and you can damage the crankshaft in the engine. And I know of one situation, which I'll be very anonymous about. It didn't involve me, but yeah, I know some dude did that, went flying around for a bit, and then they checked it out at the mechanic, and they inspected the bearings on the crankshaft, and there was wear and tear there that it would have failed. So the engine would have conked out on the guy at some point, and then you're dealing with an emergency. So we don't want to deal with any emergencies here in the Super Pilotish channel. There's my marker. Okay, so number 2, here's another one that is pilot-induced damage. That's a squeaky one today. Okay, what do we got here? Okay, if you have low oil in your engine, or if you have no oil in your engine, it will not run. Now, pilots are usually really good about checking that stuff. Every single flight, you're checking the oil before you go up, adding the appropriate amount, because they do. Aircraft engines actually consume a little bit of oil. Some gets blown past the rings, and some gets burnt and goes through the lifters and stuff like that. But it's airplane engines are a little more loosey-goosey than your car engine. That's why they're so reliable. And so either not checking your oil, or maybe if you're taking a really long flight, and I know this happened to one of these guys where you can fly from, some of these planes have extremely long range, and so you can be up in the air for quite a bit. Oh, hey, Travis. Oh yeah, Travis is here too. He's going to see Tool on tonight. Oh, cool. Yeah, Tool's playing in Toronto tonight. Good band. So anyways, yeah, so we got talking about our low oil, and I know a guy, he did a big long trip, came back, parked the plane, then they went to check the oil again, and it was like really low. So there's some of these airplanes, if it gets below a certain level, they have to tear down the engine and check it out. So at this point, it was just above the lowest where you have to tear down the engine. But like even you don't have to totally run out of oil to have your airplane engine inspected and be you have to do that. Oh, hi, Rich. So watch your oil level here. So that's either the pilot not checking it, or could be just using up a lot more than you thought. But that will damage your engine, and so keep that oil level up there. Okay, number 3. Okay, this is another one here. So I would say I was trying to figure out how to word this one, but we're going to say starting procedure. So starting procedure kind of goes in with the low oil thing. So starting procedure. Okay, so starting an airplane engine is really weird because it's not like just like your car, just stick in the key and it works, or hit the button if you got the new car. I got an old car with a key. So starting procedure. Yeah, that's another thing. It's not that easy to start an airplane because if they made it really easy to start, then the reliability goes down. So it's like the airplane engines are all designed, it's all about reliability. So there's some sacrifices that have to be made there. So the starting procedure, the biggest one, and actually kind of, I don't know, it's something this time of year that we have to pay attention to as pilots, is the temperature outside. So a cold start on an airplane engine where it's really cold outside just is horrible for the engine. So I mean, piston rings will be scraping things, and it's a mess. So like, say it's really cold, like here in Canada, it can be minus 20 Fahrenheit or Celsius. That's cold, man. And what happens to your oil when it gets that cold? Like if it's a cold soaked, as they call it, like a cold soaked engine, absolutely everything is minus 20 and you're trying to start it up. Well, first of all, that's colder than you're supposed to, according to the manufacturer of the oil or the engine manufacturer. You're not supposed to start it that cold, but people do. And at that point, your oil in your crankcase is like molasses. It is like, if you've ever done it, it could be a fun experiment if you're doing an oil change on your car or something like that. Get a like a quart of oil or something like that, and just stick it in the freezer, and then compare how that pours to something at room temperature and that stuff. And like, this oil is really thick in an airplane engine, so and that's to be designed to not break down during high heat, but it sacrifices it at the low temperature. And so there's ways of keeping your oil warm so that you can start your engine properly. But if you just sit there, you don't. Some places have like a heater you can plug in. If you can put it in a hangar, even if a hangar's not heated, it'll still be warmer than the outside temperature at minus 20, minus 30, or something like that. And another thing you can do is if you have no source of heat at all, if you get what you can do is just get like a 100-watt light bulb, and just like or a floodlight or something like that. You just have the light bulb on the engine. There'll be heat from an incandescent light bulb, and that'll keep it a little bit warmer. And or there's engine blankets you can get. Just throw a regular blanket over your engine while it's still warm. It'll keep it in there. So make sure it's not cold when you're starting. That is a big one. And the other one too is your starting procedure is if you're starting at a high throttle setting, where, and everyone hears this as a flight instructor, chief flight instructor. Every time I hear an airplane start up with instructors start running for the door, telling people to, hey, get your RPM down. But usually the student or whoever the new pilot is usually will figure it out. But yeah, so if you're starting at a high throttle setting, I'll kind of do a little diagram on this. So you got and this is, I know for sure on Lycoming engines, this is very, very common. That's a type of engine for most little Cessna 172s nowadays. They come with Lycomings. That's the manufacturer name. So you're going to have the way that the engine's set up. Okay, let's see if I can draw. And there's an engine there. We got a crank going through. Oh, what am I going to do here? Oh, look at that. I think this is probably one of the best designed engines ever. Totally. All right, maybe I'll use my guitar rag today for this. Okay. And we got a propeller over here sticking out. You guys are going to like this. This is a top view. That's the top view of an engine. Look at that. We got a propeller over here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 cylinders that are going sideways, just like an awesome BMW motorcycle or Volkswagen Bug, the old ones. And so you got your crankcase, or this propeller is directly attached to a crank that goes through there, the crankshaft. But on top of that, we're going to do a side view now. Side view looks like this. Okay. This is not going to be exactly to scale blueprint drawings, but whatever. We'll say it's that weird first angle projection they use over in Germany. Okay, we are going to have the top engine. I would do like a sideways look. So we got our cylinders. And how would we do this? It kind of looks like this. All right. Now this is looking weird. Okay, these are the side cylinders. There's a crankshaft that goes here out to the propeller. I kind of flipped it around like this, I guess. And then, but on top, there's a camshaft here. Okay, so we got our camshaft with our little lobes. You got little lobey lobes on the camshaft. And there's no oil going up there on the top. All the oil's down here in the oil pan. If you can get that. But so this is where it's important not to start up with too high of an RPM, because the propeller starts zinging around really fast. And now you have all these cams here that are going on to lifters. Now we're getting technical, and they're not lubricated. So they just zing up. There's no oil on there, and you can wear out the metal on those. So unlike homing engines, if you're starting it too fast, or even if it's cold, yeah, those lifters are or the cam lobes, they get worn out. They usually catch that during a some sort of maintenance or something like that. So you'll notice it's running rough, or they'll inspect it or something. But that's something that can happen. So watch your RPM when you're starting. Okay. I don't know. That got kind of technical and piloty in a hurry. So, all right, what else we got here? Now we're gonna do. Okay, so now we're getting a little bit more rare in our ways to damage an engine or propeller, and we are gonna try. So we'll say, kind of like runway contaminants. We'll say that. So that could be. What else we got there? You see those guys, those crazy Alaskan guys taking off on sandbars and stuff like that. Well, usually their propeller has a lot of clearance off of that stuff, but I don't know. Sometimes you might pick a little bit of sand or sandy type of dust might get kicked up. So we'll say sand. If you have a gravel runway, watch out for the gravel. Way up north, they have gravel runways up in northern Canada. And what else we got here? And water too. So that would be water puddles on the runway, or more specifically, okay, we got sand, gravel, water. So that's when your airplane is on the ground. It could pick up some sand. It could pick up some gravel on the propeller, and water too. So I think I've said it a few times on the channel before that if the propeller is really close to the water, it'll kind of create like if you ever see a float plane right underneath the propeller, right by the water, it looks like there's a little tornado going around there because of the vortices from the propeller, and that it'll suck up water. And so it's like here's a little tornado sucking water up to the propeller, and then that can damage it because it's going so fast. And some like what that will look like for an aluminum propeller will be it'll be just kind of little. All right, let's try this again. Usually pilots talk with their hands, and but I talk with whiteboards. There we go. It's a little more professional, a little more flight instructor. So we got so if you got your propeller, like here's one propeller tip. There you go. That's exactly what a propeller tip looks like. But on the end here, you'll get a bunch of little circles. And it might be pitted. So you could say, and it looks all weird like that. Yep. Okay, that is my whiteboard from the dollar store is looking pretty bad. But yeah, it'll be all pitted and stuff. I don't know. Whatever. But and you got to keep an eye on that so it doesn't get too damaged. Water will do that. Gravel, I know on if you've ever seen the what is it? I know a guy that flew one. It was a Cessna 337, the push me pull you kind of twin engine plane, one in the front, one in the back. So there's a procedure that you do when you take off in those planes because the propeller on the front can kick up gravel and put it into the propeller right behind it. So what they do there is they'll put full power to the rear engine first, get it going, and then just before rotation they give it up to full power on the front, and then that way that minimizes the amount of damage that could be on the rear propeller. Kind of a weird way of flying the plane, but anyone that flies a Cessna 337, they really love those planes. They're really cool. The old what was that, Bat 40, what was that movie, Bat 21, something like that. Anyways, that was a cool one. Bird dog plane. So yeah, okay, last one here. This is very rare, but when I was hearing about all the there was a bunch of volcanoes and stuff like that going off in Iceland recently. I don't know if they're still doing it, but years ago there was a big volcano that went off, and like the name of it was like this long and nobody could pronounce it. And I was actually linguistically nerdy enough to actually learn how to pronounce that big long volcano back in the day. It took me a while, but I believe it's pronounced Eyjafjallajökull is the proper name in Icelandic. Anyways, they're going off, and so we're talking about. Okay, we're getting all piloty here. See the plus VA, that means heavy volcanic ash. And what else we got here? Volcanic ash, or and I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. But a sandstorm, I think, is SS. If you're reading it in the pilot weather stuff, but we'll say sandstorm. That could happen wherever there's desert. So it could be. They get some big sandstorms in the Middle East and in Africa. And I don't know. I guess you could probably get them out in Arizona and New Mexico, out that way. So sandstorm. Now the thing about these things, heavy volcanic ash sandstorm, that is from what I've heard and seen and researched. I've never actually kind of been through it, but I've seen pictures and kind of studied it at school. And when you're getting like volcanic ash, it's just like running sandpaper through your engine. If you got a jet engine, those turbines are turning really fast. I don't know what, 20,000 RPM or something like that, depending on what shaft is turning where. And you just get one little something's going 20,000 RPM, and you throw a little grit of sand in there, you're just ripping a bearing apart, and you're going to dynamite the engine. So it's like, that's not cool. So yeah, that's why all those, if you ever are inconvenienced by your flight being canceled going to Europe because of some pesky Icelandic volcano going off, consider yourself lucky and happy and on the ground. Take an extra week vacation, go to the pub. But it's because anywhere even remotely near that stuff, like it doesn't take much. But and the big engines on the big jets, I mean, they're just sucking in so much air. They're going to get so much sand and grit and everything going in there. They just will not last. Now, no one's ever really flying across the Atlantic in a piston-powered airplane these days too much, unless you're maybe ferrying something. But even that, the air filter on that would just clog right up. Just like guys that drive in the desert and they do, I don't know, like off-roading in their Jeeps and stuff like that. Their air filter's done after a weekend. So, and in an airplane, you're flying through this stuff, your air filter will clog up. And you really, if that clogs up and it makes your engine start to sputter and you're going to die, Whoop, shouldn't say that. On the superpilotish channel, engine sputter, and then the engine stops running. Well, you can't just put on the alternate air or carburetor heat because that's unfiltered air, and now you're sucking in air with a bunch of volcanic ash and sand directly into your engine, and that won't last long either. So it's really, you got to stay away from that. But luckily, that's very rare. And there we go. Let's protect some engines and be safe at the superpilotish channel. So let's go over this before I get to any questions or comments. Here are the top 5 YouTube ways of to damage your engine and prop, and how to avoid it. Okay, so number 1 is your prop strikes. Watch your airspeed when you're landing. Most of the guys that have done prop strikes on landing, that is usually because they're just coming in too fast. And usually it's these rich guys with these super slippery airplanes, and they're used to a slower plane. You pull back the power and it just slows down. But you got like a Cirrus or what do they got there? These Moonies, they're pretty quick and stuff, and you got to plan way in advance to slow down with those things. If you land too fast, you land too flat, that's when you can hit your front propeller in the front. Low oil, watch your oil levels, stuff like that going along with that. Starting procedure, make sure you're starting at the proper RPM and don't do any cold starts. Wait if you have to. Pull the plane in the hangar for half a day. Go for breakfast. That's I got canceled on the weekend for my flight, and it was like a beautiful day, but it's just a little bit windier than I would want to go fly. So went out to the airport. It's windy. Went home. Oh, well, that's aviation for you. Okay, one old guy, Dave Panton, he died this year, but he was an old pilot out at the airport, and he said, "You're not a real pilot until you come home on the bus." So he had to come home on the bus once, so he's a real pilot. He was. Good guy. Okay, sand, gravel, and water. Watch out for that anywhere around your propeller. And watch out for your heavy volcanic ash. And don't fly into any sandstorms on your way to, I don't know, wherever you're going to be going. You're going to go lose all your money in Vegas there. So if it's a sandstorm, save your money. And there we go. Top 5 ways to damage an engine and prop. We will not do that because we are safe here on the superpilotish channel. Okay, and now we'll see if there's any questions, comments, etc., etc. I didn't get to that on my last show. I appreciate you guys for showing up. And when I had Joshua Lysek, the famous ghostwriter, editor, publisher, hardworking millennial guy, my last show, and it was just a little too long and couldn't quite get to the questions and stuff. But I can see how Joe Rogan can go on for like 3 hours if you have a good chat going on. So what else we got here? Oh, Nefarious popped in here too. I didn't see it. Okay, what do we got? Okay, here we go. Travis popped in, my neighbor. He's up in Toronto. He misses me so much. Well, if you miss me so much, spend more time with your girlfriend, dude. So anyways, yeah, he's up there to see the band Tool. They're playing up in Toronto. Here we go. What else we got here? Okay, Wrench is talking about the woes of renting an airplane. So some people think more oil causes more usage, so they'll tell you not to put in extra quarts for short trips. But since he rents, he nods his head when they complain and continues off high. Yeah, there is something there about if you, let me see here. Okay, if usually what happens on a little airplane engines is that there's usually a max capacity that you can put in there. It's maybe 8 quarts or something like that. Usually somewhere around there, 8, 7, and then when it gets down to it'll usually like blow off the first 2 quarts and then kind of settle in at 6. And then for some reason it doesn't. I think it might be venting, might be going out the crank vent a little bit more if it's doing it that way. But yeah, I would never ever tell anyone. I would usually say, oh, you're just doing a little trip around here, if it was one of my students or someone that was renting one of the planes where I used to work, and they said, well, I feel safer if I put more oil in it. And like, Can't argue with that. Yeah. No, don't be safe. I'm the boss. Don't be safe. You can't do that. So it's like, well, sure. Like I know myself, I'd be cool with that. But and you think about that too. If you're sticking in more oil, if you're renting, hey man, you're paying for it. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with. Now, it is wrong to have like too much oil, like more than 8 quarts. But if you were for some weird reason something happened and you got down, you put in, you're up at 8 quarts. Some weird thing happens, an oil line blows off, and you land with you got like half a quart left in the pan, but the engine was still running. Well, aren't you glad you put that extra oil in before? I don't know. I don't think there's nothing wrong with being safe there, Wrench. I would agree with you. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, here we go. This is another cool thing. Electric pre-oil pumps are interesting. Yeah, so that problem that I was talking about, how the cam lobes aren't, how they're not lubricated when they first start up. There are aftermarket pre-oilers that you can do on that. I think I don't know if they actually. I think they're mostly all aftermarket. They don't really come from the manufacturer these days, but they might on the newer planes. I'm not sure, but yeah. So there are ways of. I know a couple guys that have those, and yeah, you just a little electric pump, just squirts a bit of oil on there, and now it's pre-oiled, and then you can go. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the like Merlin engines that were in Spitfires and Mustangs, Lancasters and stuff, I think they all have pre-oilers on their cams too. I've never flown one. I'd like to. Hey, if anyone's got the keys to a Mustang or Spitfire, all right, I'll take it up for a spin. Okay. Just like every other pilot in the world. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Wrench has never landed on gravel. Would that damage a wood prop? It would damage a wood prop more than a aluminum prop. That's for sure. And if you're flying something like like some sort of a tail dragger, usually, where's my KD12 KD12X Mark II? So you got your tail dragger here. Let's see if we can see this. So because the tail's low, your propeller has a lot more clearance for when you start up and you're getting going. Usually the propeller will have a little bit more clearance on your tail wheel airplanes, and then you come up like this, and for not very long, and then you're off. So I would say gravel could damage a wood prop, but you also have a little bit more. I don't know. I guess you'd have a little bit more clearance there on a regular on your tricycle gear, not the conventional gear. You're starting off. If you ever look at like the distance, if you take your propeller on your 172 or whatever, and your three-wheeled nose dragger, and you bring the propeller all the way around, and just take a look at how much clearance you have off the ground. It's like not that much, especially if the front oleo is if it's all smushed together there. What did I want to say? Compressed. Yeah. So if the oleo is compressed all the way, maybe on a bounce or something like that, now you don't have much of a clearance off the ground on those. So that's why a tail dragger would be better for a wood prop and something like that. Or just rent it, and if it's damaged, you just throw the keys and say, "Hey, you might want to take a look at that prop." So here we go. Oh, and then that was another thing too about propeller damages. Be careful on your airplane too. On the types, I know the Diamond Katanas are not certified to be flying through known rain conditions or something like that. Like I've flown through the raindrops in a Katana, the DA20 Diamond, and that's not a big deal. And I think there's some sort of, I haven't checked the POH, but there's some, like, you're not supposed to fly in rain for more than half an hour or something, because the propeller is wood composite with carbon fiber and a little metal strip that's not very thick, so you can damage propellers. And you got to watch the Yeah, you got to know your type of airplane for watching the propeller, but give it a good look before you go flying always. I like that. Yeah, maybe I should get like an honorary, get like a headdress and stuff like that. Throw on some regalia, go hit a powwow, and get named Talks with Whiteboard. That's cool. All right. I've only been to one powwow, so that's all I know about it. Okay. Oh, what else we got here? Okay, Shecky's given us a Western United States report here. Glamis, California has some of the best dunes anywhere for rails and dune buggies. Oh, there we go. Or rallies? Rails? I don't know. I'm not an off-roader guy. What's a rail? I don't know. That would probably come to me somewhere. Okay. All right. So here we go. Oh, here we go. Only a person from Kansas would know this. That there's a guy from Paola, Kansas, in Tool. There we go. I'm not sure who that be. I'm not really a huge Tool fan. I mean, I do like Tools, but the band Tool. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, Travis, he 3D printed like a little plastic logo of Tool, and he put it on his own toolbox. So it says Tool on the toolbox. But very cool. He gave me one of those. I put it up in my garage. But yeah, Tool is their drummer is like, okay, Neil Peart, rest in peace, used to be the greatest drummer in the entire world, and then unfortunately he died. So now I forget the guy's name, but I've seen him, the guy in Tool. Okay, now he's number one. So it's like, yeah, they got some great musicians in that band. Okay. Yeah, so that is about it for today. And let's all fly safely out there if we can get up. And yeah, so that is about it. Today is Monday. Okay, so I'll be back on Wednesday because I do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern. And we'll kind of shut her down here. And thank you for watching. Bye.